It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
SKOR North Twins Show. Happy Friday. Happy baseball being back here for the Minnesota Twins, who have now wrapped up the All-Star game, the festivities. They are back in action in Colorado against the lowly Rockies here today on Friday. We're recording this Friday afternoon. Wanted to hop on here, just give the latest updates on the trade rumors that are circulating around the team, some roster updates, some injured players on their way back to the Twins. So if you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twins Show. I appreciate everyone that supports this show. You can get your Twins fix from a lot of different places, and I appreciate everyone that has subscribed to this channel over the course of the last year and a half. We're getting closer to 6,000 subs, which is crazy, so thank you to everyone who has done so. So if you're looking for the latest Twins news, my name's Declan Goff. I cover the team in a podcast role at the majority of home games. Get some access from the clubhouse provided to you guys here, the listeners. So if this is stuff you enjoy, do us a favor, hit the like button, subscribe button, 5-star rating on Apple, Spotify, whoever you consume the Twin Show. We appreciate you guys. So let's start with the latest trade rumors. July 31st, it's coming up here at the end of the month, and a pretty pivotal stretch here for the Twins to determine what they do at the trade deadline. You know, they're not out of the wild card race by any means. They're 4 games out, but they have some very intriguing pieces. In fact, John Heyman, MLB Insider, said the Twins and the Diamondbacks have the best options if you are a seller. So if you are, in terms of being a seller, I really should say. So if you're looking to buy, the Twins and Diamondbacks have those pieces in place to make life easier for you at the trade deadline. Now, I think if the trade deadline, let's say, were today, I don't think the Twins would sell. I think they would still say they have a shot in this. Now, they got some games against the Rockies. You know, the Dodgers are coming up here, which will be tough, but the Nationals are on the schedule. There's some soft spots. It's also, though, a lot on the road where the Twins, to be honest, haven't played very well this season away from Target Field. So this next 12-game stretch before the deadline hits on July 31st is pivotal to figure out what direction. Now, I guess what fans probably don't want to have happen, or if I guess I should rephrase it as, if you want this team to sell, then winning some games against Colorado and the Nationals, you know, probably doesn't do a whole lot for you. But sandwiched between that is 3 against the Dodgers, 3 against the Red Sox, who come into the break probably hotter than any other team in baseball. So let's say you win like 9 of 12, or even, you know, you go, what is that, 8-4, as my math tries to math there. I don't know if you sell off any real pieces. Like you might sell off Danny Coulomb. I don't think you'd trade Harrison Bader because they would like what he's providing to them. So this is a pivotal stretch to figure out where they want to go. I think, as we've talked about it a lot before, especially in the last few weeks, and we're going to be talking about it even more here in the next 12 days, but Joe Ryan's name continues to circulate from multiple different places. So Rob Bradford, who covers the Red Sox for WEEI Radio, he was the one, I believe, who even interviewed Joe at the All-Star break, where Ryan gave the quote about, you know, it's exciting to be on the trade deadline. He'd be sad to leave Minnesota. He kind of doubled down a little bit more of it on WEI this week and said that the Red Sox love the Minnesota starting pitcher. They have for a while. When the Twins dipped their toes in the Tristan Casas conversation, who at one point was one of a very exciting player for the Red Sox. This year he's battled a ton of injuries. When he came up, he was one of the more exciting players in baseball. He's on the 60-day IL now. But Tristan Casas, he was one of the most exciting players when he debuted in 2023. Now he was someone, though, that the Twins were interested in a while back. So, yeah, I don't think Joe gets traded, but the Red Sox would be interested. John Heyman, another MLB insider, said that it's possible they move Ryan. You know, again, Twins and Diamondbacks have a lot of interesting pieces to sell. Buster Olney, again, continuing down this path. So the Twins could also could be into this question in terms of being sellers. A lot of the deals at this time of year are for relievers, and the perception of other teams is that Minnesota could be a primary source with a lot to offer. Duran, Coulomb, Jacks. One rival executive believes that the All-Star starter, Joe Ryan, will be moved before the deadline, but 2 others disagree, saying that their perception is that the Twins would have to be overwhelmed to part with the starter. I mean, I think that's safe to assume. They would not sell low on him. I think if they're going to trade him, it's this offseason, right? Like he has 2 more full years of team control. So unless they're absolutely blown away by someone here this deadline, or they go into a tailspin, then maybe the chances of that go up. I put it at like 5 to 10%, and that's maybe even higher than maybe some other people would say it is. It could be even sub 5%, but I probably put it between 5 and 10% that someone like Joe Ryan is traded. The Griffin Jacks part's interesting. Duran's also interesting piece to be moved as well. Like Coulomb, he's a rental. He's a lefty. He's having an awesome year. Like that wouldn't be surprising, even if they were like still in contention and they got like an overwhelming piece back, because relievers always go for more than their asking price basically at the trade deadline. But Jacks is 30 years old. Duran is how old is Duran? Is certainly maybe not as strong as he once was when he became the closer, but he's 27. Like I would actually be more interested in trading. If I was going to trade one of the two, I probably would trade Griffin Jacks. I know the raw numbers say he has struggled. If you go back, since he had some hiccups early in the season, you go back to that last real big hiccup against the Braves earlier this year, he's been one of the best relievers in baseball. So you look at his ERA and you might think it's inflated, and it is inflated. But he's still one of the best relievers. Any team would be lucky to have him as their setup man, and the Twins would get a really solid return for him. You're probably talking maybe multiple top 10 prospects coming back to the Twins. It wouldn't shock me at all. But can you sell high on a reliever? Could you sell Griffin Jacks too, I think, and this is where I keep thinking out loud about this. Can you sell Griffin Jacks, still be in contention, and still be okay for like a stretch run? Like, let's say you get hot, if you got overwhelmed by an offer. Louis Varland's having a very good year. Brock Stewart has been healthy and has been also really effective this year. Cole Sands has been a little bit up and down, maybe not as sharp as he was. Justin Topa is just a middle reliever, but like, could you lose Griffin Jacks, get 2 really good pieces to help you push your prospect pool even over the top, or get some piece back? Maybe that helps you right away. Forget a prospect. That makes you better on the offensive side. I wouldn't rule out that idea. Make a sideways move. It certainly would make your bullpen thinner, and it would probably be a blow to the clubhouse. But I'm actually more interested in maybe that than trading Joe Ryan or trading Duran, assuming that like this team still remains in contention and plays good ball over the next 12 games. But yeah, it's such an important stretch here for the Twins coming up to determine if they're buyers or sellers. A lot of this activity really doesn't pick up until the day leading up to the deadline, where again the Twins are off on deadline day, so they don't got to worry about like pulling a starter or pulling a player from a lineup last second, which actually I'm a little bummed by, because that's a good way to read into tea leaves. If a guy's out of the lineup or he gets pulled, that's a good indication that player might be traded before the deadline clock hits. But they are off that day. They'll be in Cleveland before beginning a series against the Guards. So this is a big stretch for the Twins to figure out. And again, we're going to be covering all those trade rumors, anything that we see. I don't hear a whole lot. I hear some stuff, but anything that I hear, I'll give it to you guys here on the Twin Show. So if you're looking for that type of stuff, thank you so much for supporting SKOR North Twin Show. I'll be happy to bring it to you. Some other roster updates here. Luke Keyshaw, who has missed the last 2+ months. Hell, like almost, 2.5 months now? Yeah, fractured his arm. Like, you're going to miss some time there. He has joined the St. Paul Saints, so has Bailey Ober, for a rehab assignment. Saints, I believe, in Louisville today. But Keyshaw getting in some action. He was down in the Florida League, getting some swings in, facing some pitchers. Now he's going to move up to an actual rehab assignment, which is encouraging. I would guess, though, it's probably like still a halfway lengthy rehab assignment. I'd be pretty surprised if he joined the Twins on the current road trip that they're on. He certainly could, but the Twins are back at home next weekend against the Nationals. It's probably, I think, maybe a safer time to assume that he be back in the lineup for the Twins. I mean, he hasn't played in meaningful games in a long time, and they're going to want to see how he feels offensively and mostly defensively too. I know they've used him a lot as a DH, but Keyshaw will be a big spark plug for this team. And look, regardless if the Twins start winning here or if they are indeed sellers, like Keyshaw, I think, is a fun piece to look at and observe, no matter where the Twins are at. If you're looking at what pieces do you want to build around, Keyshaw's one of those guys, but probably going to be a lengthy rehab assignment with the Saints, and then probably during the next homestand. So the Twins have 3 here in Colorado, 3 against the Dodgers. They are off on next Thursday, the 24th, so they'll be back in the Twin Cities probably late Wednesday night, and then they begin a 6-game homestand against the Nationals and the Red Sox. We lead up to the deadline, but yeah, maybe Keyshaw back in the Twins lineup for that homestand. Bailey Ober, on the other hand, he had some hip discomfort. He had an awful month of June, probably the worst month of his career. So they skipped his start. They put him on the IL. He's rested up a little bit. We'll see how he performs in his first rehab appearance. You know, this is where, depends how you want to look at it, but like if Ober is gotten these issues out of the way and his hip feels good and he's back to being who he is, and you have Joe Ryan and Zebby Matthews, who, by the way, looked really good with the Saints on Sunday. He'll probably make a start. I don't think the Twins have announced probables for the rest of this Colorado series. Now, I don't think Joe Ryan would throw at any point this weekend, but they need to kind of line up where they want their starters to be. Right now, Chris Paddock's going to start on Friday. Could that probably be like Festa or Zebby starting tomorrow and Sunday for the second and third games of this series against the Rockies? I think that's probably a safe assumption to make. But yeah, Zebby Matthews will be activated here very, very soon. Bailey Ober might get a start or two, and I don't know how long he'll go in St. Paul, but just encouraging that both those guys are coming back to the Twins and getting healthier, which is really good for them. So, and look, the Rockies are terrible. They're 22-74. They might flirt with being worse than the White Sox last season, which I didn't think was possible. So minimum, like you need to take 2 or 3, if not sweep this Colorado team if you're indeed a serious playoff contender. But good to see that Keyshaw, Bailey Ober getting closer to coming back here. They're with the Saints, and we'll begin a rehab assignment. A few other notes here on the SKOR North Twins Show. You can hit the like button and the subscribe button here for Minnesota Twins news information. Anything you guys want answered over the next homestand, or anything you want some clarity on going forward, hit me up, and I'll be glad to get some boots on the ground and figure out what's going on there. Greg says in our YouTube comment section that the Twins must sweep the Rockies, must being in all caps. I mean, you'd like to think so. They're really bad. It is difficult to sweep teams, but that's about as easy as it gets for a sweep. So we'll see what they get. Again, Chris Paddock on the mound, who's, again, battles some inconsistencies. He had a stretch there where he looked like he turned some things around. Lately, he's looked more like the Chris Paddock that has mostly struggled during his Twins career. So we'll see what he has there. A few other things. I gave a recap on some of the draft picks that the Twins made, and taking a look at some updated prospect rankings. We'll start with ESPN's Kylie McDaniel, who re-ranked the Twins prospects with some of those draft picks. And this is where, where do you want to get your prospect news? Do you want to get it nationally? Do you want to get it locally? I typically go to MLB.com is where I mostly look at Twins prospects. You can get them at The Athletic. You can get them at Baseball America. You can get them from blog coverage. Get them however you basically want to receive it. But ESPN's top 10 rankings has kind of the usual suspects at the top. Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, Luke Keyshaw are the top 3. Honestly, no real movement in the top 8 prospects. That would be Charlie Soto at 4, Connor Prelip 5, Dasan Hill 6, Kalen Culpepper 7, Gabriel Gonzalez 8th. Their previous rankings, all those guys ranked 1 through 8 respectively. But Merrick Houston, the Twins' first-round pick from last week, he is now the 9th best prospect, and McDaniel has Quentin Young, the nephew of Delman and Dimitri Young, as the 10th best prospect. Quentin was a prep kid drafted out of California, was ranked one of the best shortstops, I believe, if not the best third baseman or shortstop in California. But both him and Houston cracked the top 10 from the ESPN side of the prospect pool. Aaron Gleeman, who covers the Twins for The Athletic, has it a little differently than what Kylie McDaniel has. He actually has Kalen Culpepper up to 4th as the Twins' top 10 prospect. That's up from 7 in his preseason ranking. Connor Prielipp went from 9th to 5th. Deshaun Hill goes from 20th to 6th, and Hill was a second-round pick last year. A really strong starting pitcher with some high velocity, pretty big dude, but he's racked up a lot of strikeouts. A good guy to kind of stash and watch there as they develop. And then Merrick Houston is 7. Gabriel Gonzalez is 8th, who's having a hell of a year between high A and double A. Charlie Soto 9th, but he dropped from 6th to 9th. And Riley Quick, the Twins' second pick in the draft from Alabama, he's 10th. So depends on where you want to get all your prospect news. Regardless, though, Twins, I think, do have an interesting pool of prospects. I know fans sometimes, and myself included, get really sick of hearing about prospect rankings, and honestly, it does get annoying. Look, prospects usually don't pan out to their ceiling or their projection, and you got to kind of lower your expectation to figure out where they become a regular major league contributor, and if the guys hit their top ceiling, that's great. But it is easy to fall in love with prospects when the majority of them are not going to live up to the hype or even really become contributing major league players. But we're halfway through. We're through the All-Star break, and rankings change and come out. So just some things too that I like to share with you guys. Been playing more or giving more prospect updates on the SKOR North Twins Show. That was something you guys really wanted and watched. So cool to see. And yeah, I mean, some second half, just I guess thoughts here as I wrap things up on this Friday on the SKOR North Twins Show. Second half thoughts. Number one, I think Royce Lewis has a lot to prove here in the second half. He's battled injuries, but has mostly been ineffective at the plate. If he turns things on, if Carlos Correa, is back to being an offensive threat, that's kind of the if. That's the biggest if of this season and this team so far. The reason why they have underperformed is the contributions and production from their two offensive players who are supposed to be their two best offensive players, or two of the three best offensive players. Buck's having the best year of his career. Matt Wallner's battled some inconsistencies this year too, but if those two dudes especially get hot, and I know we love to say, don't let the Twins get hot on the SKOR North Twins Show, but in reality, if that happens, yeah, then all of a sudden this team becomes dangerous. But we're 66% of the season, and that hasn't really come to fruition. And even though they had a 13-game winning streak in May, this team has largely underperformed and underachieved throughout the duration of the year. So we'll see what they have in the second half. The other Twins teams have gotten hot in second halves before, so it's not out of the question. I think the division's out of question, and that's not a piping hot take. The Tigers are probably the best team in the American League, and they have a ridiculous cushion here. The Twins had a 95% chance to make the playoffs last year in mid-August and then missed it completely. So there are certainly some times where high percentages end up biting you in the ass, but 11 and a half games back are the Twins. They're in second place. They're only a half game up on Kansas City and Cleveland here as the second half begins. In the wild card race, the Twins are 4 games back, needing to jump the Rangers, the Rays. Right now, if the playoffs were to start today, the Yankees, Red Sox, Mariners would be the top 3 teams, respectively, in the wild card race. So a lot of ground to be made up. Yeah, cliche as it sounds, it is a one game at a time thing for them, one series at a time, if you want to expand that a little bit. But 2 games under 500. They went into the break playing some better baseball. Now we get to see, after a little bit of an all-star break and some fun things at the game with Byron Buxton and Joe Ryan, regular baseball is back here, and a big stretch of games. I guess I'll leave you with this. If they swept the Dodgers, okay, let's say they swept the Dodgers. Let's say they went 5-6 or won all 6 of these road games, and the Rockies stink. Dodgers are obviously probably one of the favorites to win the whole damn thing, and we all know that. If they sweep the Dodgers, does your opinion change on the Twins? Because that's an important thing to listen to, because they're 58-39. The Dodgers have battled their share of injuries too, and look, they were not looking good there before the All-Star break. They had lost before taking the series against San Francisco? They had lost 7 in a row against Milwaukee and Houston. But if they win 5 of 6 or just sweep this whole road trip, does your opinion change on the Twins? And if it doesn't, I get it. I understand that 6 games isn't going to change anything, but it will probably change how the front office views things. So I'm excited to get back next week at Target Field. Nationals in town, Red Sox in town. Going to be an absolute blast for the trade deadline. So appreciate you guys for listening, supporting, hanging out with me here on a Friday on the SKOR North Twins Show. Trevor Plouffe has been knee-deep in coverage of the All-Star Game and Twins TV, so I know we've missed our guy Trev. He'll likely be back next week with us. We love having Trevor Plouffe on for Tuesdays, plus State of the Twins on Monday. Our All-Jag team was yesterday. That was a doozy. That was a blast. It was an hour-long episode picking an all-Jag team. So if you missed that, go check it out. Plus some ownership update stuff too from Rob Manfred. So there's plenty of content here on the SKOR North Twins Show. I thank everyone for listening, supporting. Hit the like button and subscribe button. My name's Declan Goff, and we'll be talking at you soon.